Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Perspectives on Prevention Spotlight. I'm Emily Torres, joined by our co-directors Mark Zimmerman and Justin Heinze from the National Center for School Safety. As another school year begins, we know how complex and demanding this work can be. Back to school season is a busy time and very, very critical. So thank you for making school safety part of your preparations. Our role at the National Center for School Safety is to support that work that you're doing in the field. This includes providing training and technical assistance, offering tools and resources, and listening closely to what's happening on the ground. We want to take a few minutes to share some of what we're hearing, what's working in school communities, and how we're adapting based on what you've told us. Justin, I'm curious, what are some of the most pressing or complex things we're hearing from the field right now?
Well, I think we've been hearing, and Mark, you might agree, cyber safety has been on top of a lot of schools' minds. So they've been talking about what it means to have a digital community, what happens if they hear about a threat or if a student posts something on social media. So that's been, I think, an emerging concern that we've heard increasingly often in the last couple of years. And it's something that the field is just starting to catch up on in terms of how do we address these concerns and how can we prevent some of these dangerous situations from happening if we recognize them or if students recognize them online.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think mental health is another issue that is a constant finding that people out in the field mention. But in terms of the content, a lot of them also say that they have that information, maybe not as much on the cyber um, issues, but and digital issues, but they're really asking for also help on how do they translate what we do know, what is the evidence in the field, how do they translate it to their context? How do they take that information um, and actually operationalize it and make it happen in their spaces, in their schools? So it's sort of like the question like, what should we do with what we already have? It's kind of answering that question as well.
Yeah, I think it's the what we do with what we already have, and also what do we do if we feel like what we have maybe isn't enough? How do we partner with people? How do we find efficiencies? How do we take the time to really do some of that like strategic planning? And I think that comes up with mental health that you were talking about, but also the emerging challenges like the digital pieces, and even just in general, I think we have to really make intentional time on our school safety teams for proactive planning. And that's something that can be a real challenge when we're trying to respond and trying to respond. So I think this tough time at the beginning of the school year gives us maybe a little bit of an opportunity to think about the year ahead and try to be a little proactive with our planning.
Just like the summer slump that students will often be contending with, it's a similar type of thing. It's a time to refresh conversations. If you haven't taken a look at your emergency operations plan in a little while, to review that document, bring it up in a professional development meeting so that folks around the table understand how the school responds into situations. I think never hurts to devote a little bit of time, and this is a great time of year to do that.
Building on that, it's also getting the students involved. And every year, it might be a new set of students, and everybody has new roles. You're no longer the seventh grader, you're now the big kid in the school. You're now, a junior, and you're starting to think of colleges. So people are, we have to think about this in a developmental way. And so that renewal is really important also for the kids and reminding them every time because they've also just taken off the summer. And then they're getting back into the social interactions that are positive and negative in their lives.
And I'll add to that some of the folks in the building that might not have consistent interaction with the students, but folks that might be working in the cafeteria, your bus drivers, your coaches and mentors. We actually spent some time creating a resource just for those staff members if they haven't had practice recognizing, for example, signs or symptoms that a student might be under duress. What are you looking out for, and what should you do if you see a student that might be struggling?
Yeah, that's such an important part that we all have a role to play in school safety from, reminding the students about those interactions to making sure that
Right.
all staff in our school buildings, I'd go as far as to say our families and our other, adults in the community as well, that this is really a time when we can all have this on our minds and see this as part of our role. Going back a little bit to Justin, you talked at the beginning about some of the things emerging in the digital space, social media space. Are we seeing any strategies that are effective or helpful? I know we're just sort of learning about the space, but I don't want to leave that hanging. Are there things folks can do right now?
I think a couple of programs that our TA team, our training team, have been really trying to create awareness around behavioral threat assessment. We know it's an area of space that many schools around the country are considering a behavioral threat assessment team. It is an evidence-based strategy to try to identify concerns well before they manifest into something really harmful. It speaks a little bit, Emily, to what you were talking about, making sure that you have a representative team. It's a teacher, it's a mental health professional, it might be law enforcement or other security that can come around and really assess if there's a concern, whether it's something that was raised online or even something seen in a hallway. I think that that's one approach. Again, something that we're happy to help folks if they're considering doing that or already have one in place along with reporting systems. So a lot of states in the country, I think, Mark, is it 30, more than 30, maybe 34 or 35, have a statewide reporting system. And it's designed to help students have a voice, empower students. If they see something, say something, essentially is the idea behind it. Both of which can help address concerns again before they really manifest into a big concern.
I would also add that it's important about the training of how to use those ARS systems, those reporting systems, and to make sure that the students know, as well as the adults in the schools, know that if it's digital, they should still report it. It doesn't have to just happen in the school. It can happen, in the digital space as well. So helping people understand how that can be used, that those resources can be used.
Yeah, that idea of really being able to catch things early and also empower our students, empower other folks in our school to report those. And you have to really create that trusting feeling in your school and have those relationships so that students feel comfortable. They feel like something's going to happen when I tell somebody about this. And I think that goes hand in hand with a lot of what we're talking about right now.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Emily, because I do think that that's a piece, a missing piece that can happen is that trust building. And so, I mean, we're often saying that it's not just a single program, that you're trying to develop physical security, but also sort of that social emotional security. So what are you doing in the building to complement some of the approaches that you're using to keep your building safe that are focused on developing teacher and student relationships, developing student and student relationships? We know that bullying still is a problem for many schools around the country. And so, pairing some of your reporting systems or behavioral threat assessment or even things like metal detectors or security cameras with some of that social emotional learning that a lot of schools are doing too, I think can make a big difference and having students being willing to speak up and report something that they're worried about.
I would just say explicitly that we know that by changing the school climate and improving the school climate, improving the relationships and trust in a organizational context like a school, we know that those are beneficial for learning and for safety.
Mark, I've heard you use the 4 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic, and relationships. And I think,
Right?
that's really true in what we're talking about here.
I think one of the really important things I think for schools to do is not just one thing. A lot of people think it's one and done. Okay, we have cameras, we're done. We have metal detectors, we're done. Or even just one sort of thing. So we talk about three different kinds of environments. The physical environment, which is locking the doors and cameras and metal detectors potentially. And we talk about early detection systems and the mental health first aid, having teams addressing what's reported in anonymous reporting systems. And then we already talked about social climate. So the idea isn't just to do one thing, but it's also not to do one thing in one area, but to go across those three kinds of environments, focusing on all those aspects of the environment in a school. You're addressing that larger system of how it all operates together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, but I love that approach, Mark. I think that holistic sort of comprehensive view of school safety, I think, is really important, as is thinking about not just prevention, right? What we're doing to make sure that incidents don't happen, or time of incident responses. What do we do if an incident is occurring? But what happens afterwards? And I think it's something that we really try to help schools work through. We actually have a whole toolkit, so a resource that's dedicated to sort of trauma-informed responses.
We have a trauma-informed, resilience-oriented schools toolkit. It was developed in partnership with the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. And this toolkit is all about different things that you can do in classrooms, in the schools, with individual students. And some of the things that we can do are, fairly simple. There's some changing of environments that can be really, really helpful. And we know some of them are a lot more complex. So this toolkit walks through a number of different things on those different levels that folks can be doing. We have a couple webinars that explain how to use that too. So um, this is a great little segue here because I was also really curious around, we've been talking a lot about what schools are doing or could be doing as the school year starts, but I'm also curious about to hear from you all what NCSS is doing. And I think this toolkit is one that we absolutely love to get out and love to help support people one-on-one on. That's something that we can do at the National Center for School Safety. We have training and we have technical assistance. So our school safety specialists are available to meet with folks and walk through things like our toolkits. So that's always something I look forward to engaging with you all at the beginning of the year as the schools districts we serve. But curious, Mark and Justin, other things we're looking forward to for this school year as the NCSS?
So, I mean, over the years, we've been able to develop a true compendium of training resources. And I think we've been putting a lot of energy into helping folks build skills over time. And Emily alluded to it earlier. We feel that everyone is part of the school safety community and has a role in helping to keep buildings safe. We have trainings that are really focused on just introduction. What is school safety? What are some of these things that we've been talking about if you're less familiar? All the way up to modular trainings or self-paced courses that allow you to get into a little bit more depth, to toolkits on things like trauma-informed responses, things like program evaluation, things to really walk folks through kind of on the boots on the ground level, so that you have your team in place and you can start to implement some of these strategies that we're talking about. Always with the option, if you're interested in working with our TA specialists to support that activity. So I think developing those different trainings is something that's been high priority for us, and we continue to do it. We're trying to respond to some of these emerging areas, like digital security and safety, as we mentioned a little earlier. And so to work with our topic experts and our staff, it's going to be an exciting year.
One of the things that I'm really excited about is these messages and attention to school safety and thinking about the whole environment of a school and really trying to turn around what schools are for, which is learning. It seems like there's momentum growing for this. I think people are excited and interested and committed. Excited might not be the best word there, but they're certainly committed. And I think that's really vital that this only works when there are committed people in the school leadership who want to pay attention to these activities, knowing that they're vital for learning for kids. And we try to be responsive to the field. We're constantly asking people in the world. We do needs assessments. We talk to people. We go to conferences and do workshops at conferences, and they're ever more well attended. Ever more people are asking for help. And we're here to provide those things and try to be responsive to what those needs are. And I think that to me is super exciting.
Absolutely. And I think as that grows, as that stickiness, as you said, kind of gets, school safety becomes more and more something we're seeing as a fabric of a priority for our schools. I think something that I'm really excited to do more of is uplift voices in the field too. Folks who are doing this well, folks who've been doing this well for a long time and have lessons learned to share with everybody. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to this year as an offering.
We'd love to hear from you. our website, nc2, the number 2s.org. Let us know. There's ways to reach us through there, and let us know what you're thinking, what you need help with. And then, we'll try to be responsive to that.
To end our conversation today, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share if you could leave people with one thought or action to carry into the new school year, what would it be?
I mean, I think one is, don't worry if you don't have all the answers. What matters is to be committed to thinking about how safety is related to learning, to show up, to commit yourself to thinking about what are some of the things that need to be done or that could be done, or where's the evidence for making the places where we want children to learn and not be afraid. Um, how do we do that? And thinking about what those are, looking at the resources here, talking to your colleagues.
Absolutely. And showing up makes a huge difference, right? Just being there for those kids, being a trusted adult. The other things will come, and we're here to help you if you need the help. But I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think my message is probably something along the lines of you're not alone. I'm thinking about what Mark said earlier about the needs assessment and what we've heard from schools. So you're thinking about your building, your district, the folks that you're working with. If you're concerned about things like student mental health, bullying, staff capacity, and your time, I mean, if these things sound familiar, it means that others are struggling with some of these same issues. And we're eager to foster connections so that you can work with folks that might be doing things that are very similar to yours, so that you can feel like you have a community of support around you. And then, of course, we're here for you too.
Awesome. And I will add as my one takeaway, I think this work is hard. And it's grueling to be in a school every day doing school safety work. So if you are a school safety professional, thank you. And please remember to take the time to have some human moments in the midst of the work. I think it can be really challenging. And what you're doing is making a huge difference. If you're not a school safety professional and you're trying to understand what school safety is, what you can do to help, um, find out who is in your school, ask some questions, figure out what is going on already, and see how you can be a part of it. Because I think we've said this a couple times already, but school safety is really important for everybody to be engaged in. It's not something one person can do alone for their entire school. And thank you to everybody who is watching. As we've said, we're here to support you throughout the year. We have evidence-based tools and trainings and guidance. If you're not sure where to start, we invite you to explore our resources at nc2s.org. And most of all, again, just thank you. We learn from you. We're honored to support what you all do. We hope you have a great school year.